just a thought, just a thought. It's my opinion, it's just a thought, just a thought. Get out your feelings. Long as I'm living, long as we breathe, we gon'
Secrets are you the best thing rocking. Creative galaxies, your resume popping. And everything you do so well. Every knee bow, every tongue tell that. Tell that, tell that. Every knee bow, every tongue tell that. Yo, long as I'm living, I'ma sell that. Long as we breathing, we gon' tell that.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Just a Thought with Sharí Nycole. And I got to tell you, I'm really excited about today's show because after weeks of being stood up, my good friend Juan Winans has finally decided to join me on an episode of Just a Thought. And you know, because I am a Christian, I've forgiven him multiple times because that is what we are called to do. And so in the spirit of forgiveness, I thank him so much for joining me. He's a singer, songwriter, a sack of sarcasm, as I like to call him. And
producer, actor.
Who cuts into my intro? This is what I'm talking about. Doesn't even know how to behave. But here's the deal. He's one of the most talented people I know, and I'm not just saying that. So I'm excited about all that we're going to chat about and everything that he's doing in music and beyond because he's extremely multifaceted. And so I'm hoping that shines through today. You like that word, don't you, Juan? He's giggling because he likes my words. But without further ado, the gentleman who's sitting on the Zoom with me with the biggest pinky ring I've ever seen and the biggest smile to match, Juan Winans. Welcome to Just a Thought. How are you?
I'm well. That was quite an introduction. I have concerns about where this interview is gonna go because I knew coming in that I didn't have a lot of sense, but I didn't really. I should have factored in that I'm talking to a person who was equally senseless. So
wow, how dare you discredit me on my platform? I want people to take me seriously, Juan. What are you doing?
So I will say this. You are one of the most thoughtful, articulate, smart, engaging people that I know in our industry. And so I'm delighted to be talking to you. I also know that there's a flip side to that coin, which is very much so how I am. And I would like to conduct an interview that seems, I don't know, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Elegant, or where we are graceful people doing.
He says he wants to conduct, but I'm the host. So that word choice is incorrect. Are you trying to be controlling? Don't you hate when people jump? Really? Don't you hate when people jump and go off the handle at something that's like, that was such a reach, but I'm going to stay with it. Are you trying to control this show, Juan?
I don't know if anybody's ever told you, you can be in control and not be controlling.
That's true. That is true. That is true.
I'll just leave that there.
Fair enough. We have so much to talk about, but you know, I do want to get your take on, like, Juan, is so much going on just in general in the world around us politically. Everybody just is kind of unraveling, but as you're kind of viewing what's going on, you know, people saying R&B is dead and music, you know, taking all these turns that it's taking, and you being immersed in that part of this whole narrative. What say you to what you're seeing in general right now in the world around us? And then on the other side of that, how are you just kind of moving through that?
Okay, so that's a great question. It's a very nuanced, layered question. I would start with, because regardless of, let's go to the Kanye thing for a quick second, because I think my rule is this, and I know there are going to be a lot of people who strongly disagree with what I'm about to say, but I'm gonna say it anyway because, you know, unless they're gonna pay my bills. What I would say is, I think I just at this moment I kind of just want to speak for Black men. So this is not any offense or affront to anybody else, Black women, anybody. I am never going to be in a public setting speaking ill of or tearing down in any way another Black man. I'm just not going to do it. There are things that can happen in life that rise to the level of either it's criminal or it's so egregious where there are criminal actions or criminal proceedings. You know, if you are molesting children, right? There are always exceptions. So when I say my rule is we know there's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
So there are exceptions, right? But barring those very few exceptions, where you are physically doing harm to a person, where you are physically harming children who are defenseless, who, you know, rely on adults to take care of them, or if you are domestically abusing a person, okay. If you are expressing your political opinion, whatever, I am just not, Juan Winans is not going to be the guy who's up saying, like, you know, calling for the cancellation of another Black man. I'm just not going to do it because I know how hard it is to be a Black man in this country. And I would qualify that by also adding, I don't actually even know how the depth of that difficulty, because the bottom line is I was raised in a very privileged environment. It's just a fact. Fine, thank God. But that spared me from a lot of what I know happens to young Black men, young Black boys. I wasn't privy to that by the grace of God and my circumstances, spiritually, emotionally, socioeconomically. All of those things were in place for me, so I had a really fortunate upbringing. But I know how difficult it can be, and I know as an adult how difficult it is, regardless of how much money you have, what your success is. So many places you go in this country, you are just a Black face. You're just a Black man. You're dangerous. So I'm not going to be the person who makes it harder for Black men or Black people, Black women. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm reluctant to talk about Kanye other than to say I hope that that people get the help that they need, and it's to get the help that you need, you have to realize you need help. And that's my prayer, is that we all recognize, hey, I need help in this area. I'm not seeing this clearly. I don't agree with, obviously, a lot of his takes, a lot of his rants, a lot of his perspective. However, I'm not canceling him, and I'm not saying, you know, oh, well, we're not doing this, because we don't do that to other people. Like, we don't say who is the head of Gucci and what is their personal life like? What are their political beliefs? Okay, well, I'm not buying. We don't do that. We really kind of, media and society tells us to do that to one another. So that's my thing about Kanye. Unlike some people, I met Kanye on occasion. I actually think he has genius level. If it's not IQ, it's certainly creative output, and how he sees the world is just not like how most other people see the world. And I think that comes, I think if you study the geniuses of our time, the Henry Fords, the Steve Jobs, they all have this other part of their personality that is very, very, very similar to Kanye West. And so I think you have to take all of it and try to be a positive voice or influence in that. I hope that that's what Black people would do, is because if we don't help try to bring him back, I don't know who will. Anyway, you asked me about the music industry. Yeah, like I don't, you know, who responsibility, but man, you know,
here's the deal.
I think we talk out of both sides of our mouths. That's what I think. I think Black people say, I don't care about you, but also your words are so important.
Yes, we do. We because we are emotionally reactive instead of being proactive via information galvanizing together, communal and collective response, and educating ourselves on actually what's going on. So there are parts of what Kanye West is trying to say that I think tie into that, especially from a standpoint of equipping yourself with information, not just what you're being fed, as you mentioned earlier, but what actually is going on. I do think that he has a mental issue. And unfortunately, one of my biggest issues outside of some of the things that he is saying that I do find to be not only a distraction and a disruption, but destructive. My main issue right now is those who are exploiting what I believe is a mental issue that he has. So my thing is, when you talk about help, Juan, I'm with you. And part of that is not exploiting behavior that in many instances is a very, very clear picture of someone who, in addition to the creative genius they have, is also dealing with a mental implosion, in my opinion. So that's my issue.
It's clear. It's clear. I'm 100% with you. I think I did a story about this maybe a couple days ago, or yes, whatever it was. But it's the same thing. It's where there are media outlets and individuals, and I think I said like public figures who know that Kanye has far more cultural relevance than they do,
right?
And their whatever it is, and so they use these moments to in the currency of his celebrity, his accomplishments, his brilliance, and the implosion that you're talking about. They use all of that for their own benefit.
Correct.
Hoping that people will click and drive their numbers, their followers, their clicks, whatever. Because these are things that for people who don't know, like clicks and followers actually equates to money.
Yep.
Like there are dollars on the table, and people understand that, and they are absolutely taking advantage of that. And I totally agree. And it's sad to see. It's really sad to see from people in our community. Like you expect the larger media corporations to do it because that's how they pay thousands of employees, and that's how they stay afloat. But when it's us saying, "Oh, well, he needs help," it's this dangerous rhetoric. Yet we're always, that's the thing where, and honestly, like I just, I would hate to see someone like that harm themselves. That's my real concern.
Yeah, that was my other concern
I think
too.
as people of God, I think as believers, we have a calling to pray for people and say, "Hey, listen, man, we all have our shortcomings, but at the end of the day, like I want your soul to be well."
Yeah.
And I want you to be emotionally healthy. And this man has a family, he's got kids. That's the thing that strikes me. It's like, okay, well, fine. I hope you figure that stuff out. But one thing I do know is that his kids need him. I know that.
Yeah.
I don't have to guess about that. So, that's where I land on that. The music, you said the music business.
Yeah, it's it's fun for me to ask you because you were born into this essentially. Let's not sugarcoat it. So from your vantage point as somebody from a child who's been, engrossed in this industry in one way or another, what you're seeing, what you're not seeing, what is your take on that? Especially as a Christian, especially as a gospel artist, and not limiting you to that because obviously music, you do music, you're a musician, you're an artist, but I'd be interested to know your opinion, especially with the prestige that's associated. You like how I said that? With the Winans name, because it is royalty. Y'all, let's just keep it a buck. Like the Winans are the royal family of gospel. It's only a few of them that exist.
Wow, Sharí.
You're in one of them.
That's very, very, very kind. I mean, I think so. This is a very broad. There are so many aspects of, broadly speaking. I think like a lot of industries, you put up with the industry and the business part of it because you love the creative part.
Yeah.
I love to write songs. I love to sing songs. I love to make music. I don't love anything else more than that. All of the stuff that comes after, like people ask, how is it being a recording? I was like, I want to get into the music business. And some people don't agree with this, but not all of the fun, but the fun drops off significantly for me after the work is done, after the
Mm,
creative aspect of the work. Because then the work shifts, it's still work, but it shifts into um things that feel far more political, things that feel far more just what's the word? Just not very pleasant for me and my personality type. Like I want people to listen to music just because they like the way it makes them feel. But after you make music, then you got to figure out who's the demographic. Then you got to figure out how to get it to them. You got to figure out like
yeah.
all of the hoops you have to jump through to exploit it or to get people to hear it. And then that's where it's like you do it because you love this, but that part of it is not super enjoyable for me. The business part, it's just a necessary, I won't say evil, but it's a necessary component. But I just love to make music, man. I think that's why phase two was amazing. It was great. It was my introduction,
We
personally
love
speaking,
phase
directly.
two. We love look, let me if you all are not familiar with Winans phase two, I don't know. I'm disappointed in you. That's and I love all my listeners. I'm just disappointed in you.
Don't be disappointed. Don't be disappointed. It's like another lifetime. I feel like that was my first lifetime in music, and by the grace of God, like I've had more than one, and I'll have a couple, few more. We'll see. But that was a great introduction for me. I also started writing for other people and producing for other because it just felt like I could do the music and then not have to worry about a lot of the other stuff that comes after. And that
Mm,
was a great that was a great lane to be in. And now I really feel like God is calling me back to the artistic part of it and actually delivering the material from my voice
right.
um, as a singer. And I'm happy about that. But it's also taking on some things that aren't necessarily a part of what I've been doing for a while. So if I'm writing for Mary Mary or for whoever it is, I can just do the song, be like, oh, that's great, and kind of step away from it and let it go, and just like it has this life of its own. But as an artist, you go with the song, and then you are in on all the meetings, and we want to do this. This is our strategy. This is how we're gonna and TikTok. And I'm like, yo, Jesus, if somebody says TikTok to me again, I'm like I don't know.
Because you're a
Yeah,
purist. But I find it interesting because one, you can
yeah.
really sing. So you don't, but
Thank
what
you.
you're saying is as long as you're able to exercise the other side of your gift, the producing, the writing, you're okay with not singing sometimes. Am I hearing you correctly? Because some
Well,
people will
I
say
have
like
been.
I'm good, but like you can sing for real. So I know other singers that if they can't sing, they're in a nightmare. It's like I need to get on the stage, I need to sing, blah blah. But you have an interesting take I don't think I've heard before from someone that can actually sing.
I have been in for many years now. At this point, I have been okay not singing the songs that I write or I'm a part of creatively because it was I fell in love with songwriting when we did phase two, and it was literally like I don't sing, I'm not interested in music, I'm going to be an anesthesiologist, I'm going to pursue this thing.
Mm.
uh Overnight, almost, it was like, okay, I do want to sing, God, I feel like you're calling me to this, till, oh, we got a record deal, we're working with this person. And before I knew it, we were in the studio with Rodney Jerkins and Fred and LaShawn and Babyface and all of these amazing, like, world class Grammys, just all over, like just falling out the closet. It was crazy. So that became my education. And then that's where I fell in love with songwriting, where I was like, oh, I will never forget. And I've told the story before. There was a moment where I remember being a maybe like 7 or 8, walking through the house, Detroit, Michigan, and hearing my dad writing this song. It was distinct. I hear him like going through the melody, going through the words, working it out as the process is. And then several months later, turning on TV, my dad was like, "Oh, Whitney's going to be on HBO, the South Africa special," and she starts singing the song that I heard my dad writing in our house.
Wow.
And that feeling was I will never forget, like having it just struck such a chord with me. I thought, oh, you can make something in this little space where nobody's looking, right? And then like the world could hear it. But you're the first person who ever heard it. It's your thing. And you're kind of like giving this thing to that was just so striking to me. So then when I transitioned into being a songwriter, that's what I fell in love with. And I've always been able to do that by the grace of God. But now I do believe that, God is saying, okay, well, come back into this lane because there's something still here to be done in terms of your inheritance in music. So that's why I'm going back to the singing. But I do love singing. I absolutely love it. And then the more I get back into it, I'm like, dang, yeah, this is great. It's just different.
So sticking with the music for a bit, because your family has birthed some of the most memorable, timeless songs from a songwriting standpoint that have ever been done, period. As you kind of came into a place in your life where you realized this is also part of my gifting, did you lean more into your father for any type of guidance in that area, or your uncles, in particular? Or did you just kind of find your way? Like, you had those moments where you could kind of see the process happening, take your notes and mental notes and keep it pushing? Or did you become intentional about really getting some guidance in that area of your gift?
With the songwriting, my dad was a major influence and like resource because it wasn't that he was overly vocal, and I wasn't kind of presenting things. I knew enough to. I feel like I've always been fairly self-aware, and
You
I
think
knew enough
so?
in the
You
beginning.
really, Juan?
I do, I do, I
From
do,
what, like a
and I'll tell
toddler,
you.
or how old do you think that you? Let's break this down.
Yeah, from a very very young age, a young lad.
Wow. Okay.
No, I do because I do remember when I started to write, thinking this is not that good. Um, this is not that good, but fine. I'm in the beginning stages, and it's a process. And then, so what would happen was, like, I started writing, thinking this is not that good. Started writing with my older brother Carvin, who was also in phase two, and then a good friend of mine, and we still write together to this day, Justin Gray, who grew up in Detroit with us, went to high school with, and we would all start writing, and it was this is kind of trash, but we love it so much, and we're young enough to be, we just gonna keep doing it because you just love to do it. So we kept doing it, kept doing it. But then there was a point where I thought, oh, this is better than what we've been doing. Like, you feel the growth, you can hear it, you sense it. You start putting, like, I love words, and you start putting your words together better, and it starts making your concepts are better executed. And then I remember a point where I took a couple songs to my dad to answer your question, and he I can see his face so clearly in my mind. And back then, like, I can't even say how we would listen to this stuff. This is crazy. Sheesh. Like, I was playing him stuff on CDs. Anyway, we would listen, we go to the library, we listen to it, and he would say, like, that was he was like, and we'll take it out, he would say, oh, okay, keep going. That was his thing, man, keep going, keep going. And I was thinking, yeah, that ain't that. And then I remember one time I started writing this song, it was called Somewhere in the Middle, and I still got it. And I wrote this, and I knew, I was like, this is good. And I took it to him. He was like, he was like, oh, and then I saw something happen. He got to the chorus and he was like, oh, he said, oh, that's the song. He was my gauge. And like, he had written Tomorrow and When You Cry and all these amazing songs. And I was like, oh, and then I knew I can do this. He gave me my dad was always really good at, not just in the music, but sport, whatever it was, is kind of really helping you understand what you were good at without making you feel bad about yourself. Like, he never undermined our confidence in that pruning season where it was like, hey, this is not really your thing. Like, both of my brothers, my brother's 6'3" and my other brother's 6'2". I'm not 6 anything.
You are not.
So I'm not. Thank you, Sharí. Thank you.
You're not like short, but you're not tall. You're like right at the cusp of of concern.
And you know what the worst thing in my life is? You know what the worst, like my vision of hell is like. So when you say you're not short, you're not tall, what I hear is you're average height, Ron. And I'm like, yeah, and that really therein lies the problem. Um, so all of that to say, he was really good at, like, he never said, Juan, listen, stop playing basketball and like play tennis because you're not tall and like it's not your thing. He was able to guide us and direct us and give us a sense of identity and mold us, which I think fathers are really, that's so much of our responsibility. He did it so well. I don't even know. It just had to be God. I don't think he was like reading manuals or parenting books. I know he wasn't. But he did that really, really well. It's where we left. I tell everybody the greatest thing my dad ever gave me was when I left his house. It wasn't even like, I wish he could have gave us like a, down payment, all of us a down payment on the house. Here's 300 for you, here's whatever. The greatest sense that he gave us, the greatest thing and gift was a sense of identity. We knew who we were. Like I knew who I was when I left. I wasn't guessing. I wasn't looking to find it in anybody else, anything else. I knew, okay, I'm a child of God. These are my strengths. These are the things that I'm not great at. Like I'm not guessing about it. And that was a real gift. And so when it came to the music thing, he helped me understand where my strengths were as a songwriter and then how to get better. He displayed it early on without maybe even knowing it, but then he spoke into it and said, oh, this is great. Work on this. And he identified the gift and he helped really fine tune it.
And so with that said, here we are today. So Juan, you've done some incredible things musically, and you got some things that are happening right now. And so with all of that said, with all the projects you've done in the past, keeping in mind what you've just said about your dad and his impact on how you were able to continue to cultivate your gift, musically, when we listen to your work, when we listen to the album, when we listen to your single with Layla Hathaway, now, when we listen to those things, what side of Juan Winans and Juan's gift do you want us to hear, see, and feel?
I want you to, with the album and with not all songs, but especially a song like Now, I'm hoping that the listener feels, hears, experiences a fairly complete picture of who I am.
We don't have another day, another time, another place, and no longer can we wait. It's gotta be now. Our sons and daughters ripped away, won't let their lives be in vain. If we ever wanna change, it's gotta be now. Said it's gotta be now. It's gotta be now.
So I think about the song Now that has Layla Hathaway, who's like, just like a goddess in my head.
Yeah.
The voice and it's just ridiculous. And then the late Congressman, great icon, and just a great American, a hero really, Congressman John Lewis. What I want people to hear is my hope. I say a line. I wrote a line. It's give us faith to see our way. Give us, boldness to like climb this mountain, to look. All of those things are scriptural references.
Mm-hmm.
So faith is always paramount in my eyes and in my experience and what I'm endeavoring to do. Faith is always at the top. It's always the primary thing. Also, my faith instructs me to understand that like there is a natural world that we live in, that we are supposed to be subject to. So with a song like Now, the reason I love it, I'm so passionate about it, is because it speaks to both. Yeah, I hear so many people. Listen, people, whoever's listening, stop letting people tell you that it doesn't matter who gets elected. That's not true. It's just not true. It's not. It's a lie.
It is a
Honestly, it's just
lie.
it's a flat out, it's a lie. Because the bottom line is, you got to pay your taxes, and human beings write the tax code.
Yeah.
Human beings that you sent to sit in these seats in these halls of power, and right. So, and then they write the code, and then they hand it out, and you pay the tax, right? Because they told you how you gonna pay it. So it all matters. And we don't have to say, well, my trust is in God. Yes, we are not talking about that. I'm talking about what percent are you going to pay as a small business owner? Are you concerned?
Yeah.
You know, how much are you going to pay to live in this area? Are you going to be allowed to live in this area?
Mm-hmm.
Like, all of it is legislated. So we need to make a distinction between who we are putting our hope in and our trust in, which is always, in my book, Christ Jesus. And also, I live on planet Earth in the United States of America. I'm a citizen. And so I have an opinion about how that thing unfolds and works out.
Yeah.
And I'm invested in that too. And my faith in Christ does not preclude me from having a civic responsibility and duty and engaging in that. I'm not putting my hope in it. I'm engaging in the process. My soul is well with the Lord. I'm engaging in this process. So people got to stop. Like, we just need to educate each other, and especially in the church. The civil rights movement was born in the pews of the church. So a song like Now is speaking to both of those, which I am passionate about both. It's the spiritual God. We need your strength to carry on. Things have happened to us as a people that without faith in God and a rooted, like a foundation in his word and in scripture, we would not have been able to overcome.
Yeah.
Right. That said, we overcame through that faith, which led to action. Faith without works is dead, which led to legislation, which leads to us living the lives we live now. It's a very simple process.
It is very simple, but I think we negate the practicality that is this walk. We either get super deep to a point where it actually makes us passive when it comes to engaging, like you talked about.
Yes.
And it's a danger. And then we sit and we become victims of the circumstances that we were not proactive or informed about. So we cannot, as a community, place blame on systems that we have not put ourselves in a position to even challenge, because we're so in the weeds of what we would call our faith that we negate, as you mentioned, action, process. It all goes hand in hand. Like there's your faith in God, to your point, that's what you stand on. That's foundational for you. But it's foundational, and in that, it guides how you move in processes. It guides how you engage. And if you're not engaging, that's a problem. And your faith is not an excuse for your laziness or passiveness. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think sometimes we just don't think about life that way. And it really is simple, but I think we fail to understand the simplicity that God offers us just in general. Everything we look at as like this big trigonometry equation that we can't solve. But
no, it's not that.
He is so practical. He is so real. He talks to all of us in a way that we can understand if we put ourselves in a position to hear. So I'm glad you said that. And I want to stay on politics with you, because we had a really cool conversation. This was several months ago. And I don't know if you guys know, but Juan is a political junkie. And the thing that I love about him is that he doesn't just talk the talk. He is willing to walk the walk. Juan,
my God,
what say you? Is there something that you envisioned for yourself in the political sphere that you would like to share?
Oh, wow. Listen.
He is running for president in 2024. No, I'm just kidding. He's not.
How old do you have to be to run for president? What is it?
You're old enough. You're up there. 36? You're old enough.
Oh, you're up there. See, now I was talking to Sharí Nycole. Now that's Sharí. That's who that is. That's Sharí. I can talk to her too. That's cool.
You are not gonna have these people on here thinking that I have a personality disorder. How dare you?
Disorder, but certainly a distinction.
Wow. Okay.
There's a separation.
Continue on, Pinky Ring. Go ahead.
um. So I'm not. I'm not against. I think we need. I'll say this. I think we need more people who um who are really just listening to the real constituency, the people around them, who
Mm-hmm.
are not just trying to occupy a seat for the sake of that seat or the power that it affords them, the influence that it affords them. A lot of people don't even know that members of Congress, pretty sure this is still the law. You once you are elected to a full term as a senator, there are benefits that are afforded to you, like for the rest of your life. And so, people, all of that to say, is just a very small example of reasons why people would run for office that don't have a lot to do with the people that they're supposed to be representing.
Yeah.
There's so much power. I live in Washington, D.C., I've seen it. I'm not knocking it. The influence is important because you need the influence to help, make laws and make decisions and make people's lives better. But too often, I don't think that that is the motivating factor behind why people run for certain offices, why they're electing, and then what they do with their time, um, and with that influence. And all I would say is, I think we need people who are more in touch with the community, who have more integrity, who are more interested in actually doing the work and not just having the title. And if at some point, I feel like I could be useful in that environment in that particular way, I'm certainly open to it. Um, I'm intrigued by it. I think that it exists for a reason. I believe in the power of government to make people's lives better. I've seen it. I think it's a
Mm-hmm.
historical fact. Um, and if I ever got to a point where I feel like I could do that well, then I absolutely would not be opposed to participating in that process and letting people decide if they agree with that. I'm open to it. Right now is just such a season of I'm focused on music. I have some goals and some things I think God has called me to do in that field and in art and entertainment. And not that I can't, at some point do both and maybe switch off, but that's the beautiful thing about also living in 2022 and beyond is that you don't have to. In times past and generations past, they did one thing.
Yeah.
Technology or the lack thereof didn't allow them to kind of juggle and do multiple things. But I think we're blessed and fortunate that you can have a podcast and you can also be on air and you can also be doing this. Like those are, um, we're fortunate to live in this era because in times past they didn't have that luxury. Um, and that benefit. So I'm kind of keen to that, and I would love to. I hate when I hear politicians telling athletes to shut up and dribble, like stay in your
Yeah.
lane, because that's that we're not there. Right? We're done with that. We have influence, we have platform, we have voices. We're smart, we're well read, we're intellectual. We're not just guessing about these things. This is the information age. We have the same, maybe not the same exact set of facts, but we can certainly do our due diligence and ascertain the information and the understanding that we need to be effective in our communities and to be spokespeople. So I'm happy about that, and I'm optimistic, and we'll see. I
Speaking
know you
of
better
we'll
have me on this.
see
Better have
and
me on the
shut up and
show if
dribble.
I mean,
Oh
listen.
yeah. Well, I'd have to have your opponent too. If you ran for
Shut up and
political
dribble.
office, I'd have your opponent
You
as
don't have
well.
to.
No,
You
as a
don't have to.
journalist, it's actually a requirement. Don't
Integrity, yes.
I have journalistic
Journalistic
integrity
integrity.
tells
Let's
me
talk about that.
that
What's wrong with your friends? Why y'all ain't got no integrity? Let's talk about that. Why
who
you and
doesn't
your
have
journalistic
integrity?
friends? Why your journalistic friends don't have integrity?
I don't have journalistic friends who don't have integrity. There
Okay,
are people that are posing as journalists that don't have integrity. I have
okay.
nothing to do with them. They are not my people. I pray for them, but they are not my people. Juan.
Straight. You got that straight. Okay, good to go.
People don't understand. And again, you talked about just how we're in a society now where you can really be as versatile essentially as you want to be. With that
Hmm.
same thing in mind, I think that this generation and this society lives under the guise or in this mirage where They think just because they say they're something that they're something. And I think we have to be careful with that. So we have a lot of posers out here. I don't just say I'm a journalist. I am one. I have a undergraduate degree and a master's of science degree in journalism. So to me, an applied science like that is the same as if you went to law school or if you went to school to be a doctor or what have you.
Absolutely.
So there are steps that you have to walk up and or down in order to call yourself a journalist, in my opinion. Does it mean that you're not able to get information and disseminate that information in a way that makes people feel like they're informed and entertained and inspired? That's not what I'm saying. But we need to be very cautious about just because you're sitting in a particular seat on a particular platform, calling ourselves a journalist. So
agreed.
It's funny you say that because some people would think that what I'm saying is pretentious or elitist or whatever.
No,
but it's the truth. And I think more people need to stand in the truth of first of all, the work that they've done to achieve and be what they actually are and call a spade a spade. So I'm all about people. If you feel like you have something to say it. I think that's great. Like podcasting has really opened the floodgates for a lot of people, but you're not a journalist just because you have a mic in your face. You're not.
No, you're not. But what we're starting to see is people who are not holding themselves accountable are now being held accountable by the law. Where the law is saying, you know what, actually, you are guilty of libel. You are guilty of slander. There are laws that govern these things.
Yes.
And you know what? You were operating in a space that you are not really equipped to operate in. You're not educated on how it works. And that's too bad for you. But now you owe this person, $100 million.
Absolutely.
And so that's what's starting to happen.
It's crazy.
Social media got people caught up.
Let me tell you something. It is the biggest put your costume on and prounce around platform that this world has ever seen. Okay. And it's fascinating to me. I had to take media law classes for the very reason that you said. And so my thing is, if you really want to swim in this particular pool, equip yourself with the information to do so. And then we can have a conversation. But please don't come up to me saying you're a journalist because you have a platform, because I'm not going to laugh in your face because I try to be a nice person. But I will check you very kindly.
You might, though. You might.
I just, because
you might chuckle.
I will chuckle. I am a chuckler. But here's the deal. I feel like blogs, especially when blogs really started to blow up, it really started to cloud and provide a level of misunderstanding about journalism. Like that's when it really kind of started. And then people really, I think that critical thinking is a learned behavior. I think some people like yourself at the age of infancy are just self-aware. They just know how to seek out information. But those of us that were not born with wings in our backs and little angels had to be brought up in environments where critical thinking was something that was imparted into us, that was communicated to us. For instance, in my family, my father always, if I came to my dad and said, what does this mean, Daddy? Go look it up. I need you to, my dad would always say, you need to know how to think. You need to know how to think. So for me, I don't just take what somebody tells me and believe it. I don't just look at a news peg on social media and say, oh, that's the truth. But sadly, because our attention spans are that of a gnat, and no one, we don't have a lot of people that are mentoring young people, and these conversations aren't happening in these households where children are being reared to think critically. Now everybody thinks the blogs are the truth. Now everybody thinks the blogs are journalism. Nobody understands how to double source anything. Nobody questions. The only time people are questioning things is when it goes against what they want to do or what they believe. That's the only time the majority of people question things or seek out additional information. It's just to dispute what's against what's opposing what they believe. But in reality, we should always, if you tell me, Sharí, whales they're going to be extinct in 10 years, I'm going to be like, that's interesting. Let me go look this up.
Yeah.
Let me go investigate. And I think for Black people in particular, we have to be more investigative, just in general. And I think
Oh
that's
my
part
gosh.
of the reason why there's such a breach between us making progress in this country on a very holistic level and us
Yes,
not. That's
hundred
our
percent.
condition. Yes, their system is in place that are designed to make sure we don't win. But on the other side of that, we're not meeting that with any level of resistance that would be us being collectively informed. And I think that's just a big, big problem. So as a
Which,
journalist, whatever I can do to contribute to us being informed, that's what I want to
yeah,
do.
because the being informed is the ultimate resistance.
It is.
I mean, listen, you can fine. All the other things are important, but having the information, understanding how it works, that's the ultimate form of resistance. That's how you see real change happen. And it's so interesting. Newspapers don't print retractions just because they feel like admitting they were wrong or that they didn't go.
Mm-hmm.
They print it because they have to. They can be held accountable
Yes,
if
they
they
can.
don't. And so that's what, as a community, I hope. And I think about we've talked about this before, and I've talked about it with other friends. What's our news source?
Hmm.
And it can't just be the memes. Like we will believe a meme
Yep.
faster than we will believe a black doctor getting on television and telling us what the real deal is.
Yes.
Like I spent 12 years just getting educated before they would let me really do anything, right? In school. Now we will. I don't know about that. That don't sound right.
Mm-hmm.
But if we see
Yeah.
a meme on IG, we like, yep, I knew it.
I knew.
And you're like, come on, man,
Look at
that's not
this. Look at
no,
this. And it's like, guys, I just want us to do better. And we all can, myself included, Juan included. We're not talking from a pedestal here. This is
no,
just how we
a hundred
normally
percent.
this is how we normally talk. But it just has to be more of an applicable practice for us to really seek information out, just as a part of our natural movement. Natural movement.
No, it's a challenge to us as well. It's certainly not on the pedal. We're guilty of it. I think that's what
Yeah.
makes that's what makes you sensitive to. Is like, oh shoot, I think I believe that same thing when I read it. So you know what,
I
I'm
think I
tripping.
sent that to my sister last night. Dang.
Exactly, and I think that's reflected in our work and in our art. In music, I would try to reflect that in, um, like if I have an idea that I think is cool or sounds cool, if it's not factually accurate, I'm not gonna put it out there.
Yeah.
I'm not like I love art, and in one of my songs in the album, I say I make a Da Vinci reference, a Da Vinci reference painting the Mona Lisa, and I make a time frame, a reference to like when that happened. And I thought, hold on a second, is that right? Like I know it rhymes, but
Mm.
is that actually when it happened? Because if I say, you know, 500 years later, it's still a masterpiece. If it's really 340 years, I don't want to say 500 because that rhymed with the
Yeah. Yeah.
previous line. Because now this is also opportunity for me to educate the listener. I want
Yeah.
them to say, oh shit, I like this song. It feels good. But also I just learned something about, art history.
Yeah.
Or I just learned something about like the Civil War in such and such country. Like to me, that's interesting. And I think artists have that unique capacity where you can make somebody dance, feel good, party, whatever it is, and also like teach them something in a moment where they're reciting this fact just because they're saying a lot, and now they're learning something, and then that's being perpetuated.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I would like
sorry,
to
that was super nerdy, but
well, you are
yeah.
in fact a nerd, and I am as well. So, I enjoy this type of banter. And speaking of nerd, you might as well throw know it all in there. So I'm gonna ask you about a few little things. Want to
I
get
don't know
your
if I'm ready
take.
to accept
Oh,
nerd,
these are
but let's
fun.
keep let's keep going.
You
Let's
are a
keep going for
nerd. It's
now.
okay. It's okay, guy. And when he starts to really get going, guys, he does his because I was telling you, he has this big pinky NBA championship ring on his pinky finger, and he starts just moving his
Shit.
hand like he's very actively cupping his hands, and
Championship.
he does all
That's
of
so funny
that
because
when he
the
has
new
his
Gold
deep
State
talk.
ring is crazy. Did you see the
It
Gold
is
State ring
it
today?
is bananas. um I was enamored by the turning of it. It almost gave me like a Willy Wonka tease. It was
It's
like
crazy.
I was almost like, I think this might be a little over the top. Just
I think they would.
slightly.
Yeah.
Like a
You
little
know, it's a lot.
gaudy, but I hey, they earned it. And
Super.
speaking of that, I don't know if there's a prophetic anointing on you this evening, but I was gonna ask you, NBA season
Mm,
and your thoughts. Who you're rolling with this season? Who's got the best chance at the trophy?
Cherie, I'm gonna disappoint you in this moment because
How do you know you're gonna
I
disappoint me?
because I have not consistently watched basketball um since Kobe retired.
This interview is over.
It was even harsher than I thought it would be. I
I
knew there would be a little
feel
bit of judgment.
I
I knew there
feel
would be some
slighted
judgment,
in this
but
moment.
I didn't think it would be
I
like,
thought you were a good person. I thought you were a good person. Sadly mistaken.
oh man, Kobe was my guy, man. Yeah, Kobe was my guy. And I lived in LA for a minute, but I started watching Kobe. People like, are you from Detroit? You from Yeah, that's fine. Great. I started watching Kobe in 99,
Hmm.
98, 99. Been a Laker fan ever since. I loved Kobe. I loved his mindset. I loved his he is one of the most impressive human beings that I've ever like taken time to read about, watch. And I know people be like, to me, he was just an impressive person. The mental discipline, the fortitude. I just had a lot of admiration for how he approached the thing he loved, which I think there's a lesson in there. I don't care
Yeah.
what you love. If you approach it with that sort of passion and dedication, if it's a relationship, whatever it is, I don't want me to preach. I'm saying right now,
Go ahead, Pastor Juan.
if you approach something, anything that you say you love, the way Kobe Bryant approached basketball, you will win. And to me, that's an admirable quality. You will not lose. You can't lose. So yeah, I have not watched basketball consistently in a long time. That was 2016. So it's been about 6 years since I've consistently watched. Like I'll catch a game. It's great. I'm still a Laker fan.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'll just say I hope the Lakers win. Even though like I just don't like the way the game is played anymore. I just got started getting turned off with the super teams. Even when LA
Yeah,
did it in
yeah,
'04,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they lost to the Pistons in '04 when they had Gary Payton and they had Karl Malone. I was like, this is bogus, man. Why y'all doing this? It felt weird then. I was still rooting for them, but I was like, I don't think we can win because this ain't right. And then we lost to like a regular team, a bunch of people who could have literally been like working construction and then coming to the palace of
Wow.
Auburn Hills
And
and playing at
it's
night.
crazy because you're from
And they killed
Detroit
us.
and literally
I'm
just
from Detroit.
threw shade at
No, I'm
your
not throwing shade. I'm just saying they weren't
hometown
like
teams
no. But the
players.
beautiful thing about it is that they weren't superstars. They
That's
weren't
true.
like Hall of Fame here, and maybe they did, but they are in the Hall of Fame, a couple of them. But they were known to just be super scrappy, hardworking, share the ball, play the fundamentals, and get the job done. And in LA, we had Shaq, Kobe. They was beefing. Then we had Gary Payton on his last leg. Then we had Karl Malone, and it was like we thought we was gonna win, and I knew somehow this
It
ain't the
wasn't gonna happen.
squad. Damn, no, it's not gonna happen. There's no chemistry. Y'all look crazy out there. Yeah, I just don't want gonna work. So I don't like the super team mentality. The Heat did it. Other teams have done it. It's just not my
Yeah.
thing.
I'm not a
Not as
fan of it
interesting.
either. I hope that this season you can come out of your little hibernation fast,
Tell you what
whatever
though,
you want to call it, and then watch some
if
games.
if Draymond throw a punch in a game like he threw in practice, I'll watch.
Well,
Facts.
this is the
I'm just
thing.
telling you right now.
Did you see his response though? It was very like, I'm not gonna take accountability, but I'm just gonna
Oh,
like
Draymond?
talk around it. And I was like, dude,
Yeah.
you're weird. Just say you're sorry or don't say anything at all. My thing is if you're not willing to own your behavior, just just go somewhere and be with the Lord and figure yourself out. Because
I
talking
agree with
around
that.
something that we all saw that was completely insane, you're not going to insult my intelligence like that. I just think that's bananas.
Help me understand. Did they ever suspend him, or what was the consequence? Was it was just like it was practice? Don't worry about it. It was
He wasn't suspended from any games. I think they benched him from practice for a while, from what I recall. But the interesting thing is, like, as a former basketball player, being benched from practice was actually like a luxury, because practice was
That's
always
what I was
harder
about to
than the
say.
games.
I
Practice,
was
I
gonna
was
be
like,
like,
oh, I don't
so
have to go to practice. Oh, great! Like, I'll see you in a few weeks at the game. Yeah. So I don't really think that was a punishment, but that's, I don't know. And, speaking of potential punishments, I think this could potentially be a punishment for us. Joe Biden has said that he's going to run in 2024. I'm just concerned. And it's not even like on a
Sharí,
Democratic.
why you doing this to me?
It's not even on like a Democrat Republican thing. It's just on to keep it real, like a life expectancy, competency thing. I just, I know Ronald Reagan was a million, but when he was president. But I would love to see Joe Biden just like live out the rest of his years and have peace around him. This is not peaceful. And I don't know if he will hold up mentally another, now we're saying 6 years. I'm just, that was a concerning profession to me, in all seriousness. I think we need, and this is not me, this isn't like me being discriminatory from an age perspective, because I'm not. But wouldn't it be cool if like we had a young president, like if he was like 40?
So define young.
Like
40.
and only around your
40
age, but only
young.
for a president, because like in life terms, you're a little up there. But from a presidency standpoint, you're prime real estate. So right around your age.
Actually, I actually think that in terms of like probably the best leadership wouldn't at the presidential level would not come from a 40-year-old.
You think so? How old do you think
I really
like
do.
what do you think?
I think if you have a president who is in their 50s and perhaps even early 60s, I mean, like we have to think about national life expectancy, and then based on ethnicity, which is also a factor. I mean, to be honest, 60 is not old in 2022 and beyond. It's not old, so you can be in great mental health, physical health, yeah, very confident. So I think if you are, listen, 54 to 64, I think would be a great age for a person to be president. You have enough life experience. Hopefully you have that experience translates into empathy. That's the only thing I worry about when you have a younger, there's so much vigor and passion. Sometimes that outpaces empathy, that outpaces your ability to, not to relate to, but like when you have so much like energy and like you're going, you don't leave a lot of space for where a lot of people are, because you're so goal is I gotta get this thing. This is the thing I gotta get. And a lot of bodies fall by the wayside. But not, I mean, listen, if they're 40, I think that'd be great. But I think that a great age, like a prime age, would be somewhere between 54 and 64.
I like that.
I think when you go past 64, it gets a little, I mean, listen,
so not 80, which is what Joe Biden would be in 2024.
That's true. I'm almost positive. I think it'll be 81, going on 81.
Yeah. But, so you're because doesn't he have a birthday this year?
I think his birthday is in November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think his birthday is in November as well, November the 20th. And actually, he'll be 81.
He's gonna be
Yeah, because he turns 80. From what I'm seeing, he turns 80 this year.
I mean, listen, I think he would even say, "Oh yeah, I'm just factually speaking, I will be the oldest elected president." Yeah. So that means I'm, that carries with it some significance. What I would
Mm,
say is that there's also a lot of history there, a lot of wisdom. I think a lot of experience, a lot of influence. I do think, just naturally speaking, Democrats or Republicans or everything in between, as a country, we need to start developing other leaders and be more open minded to the next generation of leaders and
agreed.
cultivating that. I think that I don't know how great of a job that. So this is. I think that politicians, especially at the national level, could do a better job of raising up that next crop, if
Agreed.
you will, of political leaders. I think so much, you can have so much personality, so much charisma that you walk into a room and you just suck all the air out of it, and like nobody can
Yeah.
really come up in that environment. And I think if that's you, you have that sort of magnetic appeal, then the onus is on you to figure out how you're going to figure out who the next generation of leaders are and cultivate those skills, um, not just for the party, but for really for the good of the country.
Yeah, for the people. Spoken like
Yeah.
a true up and coming budding politician. Uh that's beautiful,
Listen,
Juan. You've been
we will
practicing in
all
the
see.
mirror. You've been practicing in the mirror, haven't you?
Oh my
All right.
God, I promise you I have not. That would be weird.
You give me a
I'm,
practice in
I'm,
the mirror tease. Should I let that go?
yeah, you should. I've not practiced in the mirror. I don't even know what. Um, yeah. I practice my Grammy acceptance speeches in the mirror, but
Mm.
not in the mirror really. More like in the shower, like in my mind. Like
Mm.
this is gonna happen, and I want to make sure I thank the people who have really, helped me.
I like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna
But
happen.
not political speeches. It's gonna happen. But mirror talks are interesting though, because I know people who do them, and they say that they're really effective. But
They could
it's
be.
still,
Issa Rae did them in Insecure. I love that
yeah,
show.
they were funny too. Do you do mirror talk? You don't do this?
Not really mirror talks. I'm with you on the like practice speeches in my head or
Yeah.
practice like interviewing or being interviewed by someone very prominent. Like what would I say?
Yeah,
Almost like this
exactly.
way of like prophetically preparing yourself for those moments, so to speak.
I mean, you have to. If that's where you see yourself being, then you have to do it. I've absolutely done that.
Yeah.
And
I
now I can sit here
practiced
and
for
have this conversation
years
with
for
you.
this moment with you. It's been about 10 years I've been ever since I heard Winans Phase 2. Ever since I heard
Yeah,
yeah.
that was just 10 years ago. That's
Yeah.
good. I like that. Let's stay with that.
Yeah, that's actually not true. Let's see how old was I? 15?
Sheree,
So
you're going too
20,
far.
20
We
some
don't
odd
need to
years
hear that.
ago. And
Got it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
when I first heard you all's album, I said, let me start practicing right now for
Right now.
when I'm gonna talk to Juan Winans and look at us now, 20 something
Yeah.
years later.
God is
Wow.
faithful. He's been good to you.
He's been good to you because you get to talk to me.
He has
I'm
been
sick.
good to you.
I'm sick
I
of
hope you're
this.
grateful. I hope you're grateful to
I'm
him for
so
his
sick of this.
his
I am
his
very
countless
grateful.
blessings.
I am very
His
grateful.
countless blessings
And
in your
as
life.
as I wrap this up, you talk about blessings. I will ask you, because you mentioned the Grammys as well, just things that you desire. What is
I have a question to ask
success?
too, by the way. I have
Of
a question to
course.
ask too when you're done. Okay,
Okay.
cool.
What does success look like to you? How do you gauge what that is for you? Especially considering all that you've accomplished both personally and professionally so far.
Completing. Like I have things in my heart and in my mind that I want to do. And my idea of success at this point has a lot less to do with reception, people's reception or response to something I've done, and a lot more to do with me just doing it.
Hmm.
Just finishing. Like if I want to do a music project that is this, and that, and I want this person involved, and I finish it, then I feel a sense of accomplishment and success. Now, how people respond to that or receive it, That's really up to them. And I think it's a young man's game to try to control that.
Hmm.
And or if to maybe not even that, it's just kind of a fool's errand. You just can't control that. What you can control is the discipline that's required to get up and finish and complete something, and to do it well and to execute well, so that like you know there are pieces of work and art that I've been a part of till like I still enjoy them. If I see it, if it's a sketch and I look at it, I'm like, okay, that took me a long time, but I still enjoy it because it was for me and I wanted to do it and do it well. There's music that I listen to now that still feels great, and I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter if it's streamed, 50 million. It doesn't matter. That my gauge for success now is just having a vision, executing it well, and finishing it. That's where I am. And then in working with the people that I really admire and want to work with and have relationships with, that feels like success to me.
I like that. So you should feel successful that we talked today. Good job.
I do, because a part of my um, definition of success is helping other people be successful and blessing other people's lives. So certainly today falls
Oh,
under
the sack of
under
sarcasm. Here he
under
goes.
that umbrella. So I feel extra successful today, and I'm looking forward to coming back and talking about these songs. But everybody doesn't
Yes.
have your level of access, so they have to wait a little bit to get all of the music. But once they have it, then we'll come back and discuss
Yeah.
some
We
songs
need
and
we need to talk about it. I'm excited for you, Juan. I think you're in this really dope space right now. And
thank you.
just some really great things ahead. And I think like you kind of give me this tease of somebody who like lives in a cave that's like super dope, but he kind of stays in his cave and every so often he'll come out and he'll let people see his really dope personality and then he'll go back in his little cave again and chill out. I feel like you're out of the cave right now in the really good way. And I'm excited for people not only to experience your music, but just how dope of a person you are. Because you're very fun. I don't think people aren't really hip on that like I am. You're a good time person. You
Thank
are
you. I
extremely
do like
irritating,
having a good time.
but you are a good time person.
Perhaps. I do like having a good time. I really do. But I'm also an introvert, and people I tell that to
Yeah,
people, and
you
they're like,
are.
"Oh, no, it's no way." But I
You are.
am. Yeah. But you got to do what you got to do. And there are moments, right? So
We just had one,
that means a
and I
lot. I
appreciate it.
appreciate that. No, this has been great. We got to do it again soon. We
We're
really
gonna
could
do
talk for a
this.
long time.
We should have a
We've talked for
podcast.
longer than this. That would be
It's
kind of
just
cool.
weird. I think we should consider that. You guys let me know. It's so funny. We were talking earlier. I'm like, me and Juan could do this on a podcast and it would be super, super
For
fun and super
sure.
dope.
Like if I was driving home from work, I would listen to us.
Yeah. I would listen to us while I was washing the dishes. Yeah.
Yes,
That's a
100%.
big time
Washing
that you gotta,
clothes,
yeah,
washing dishes, like any of the things that we have to do that we don't necessarily love to do,
there it
you
is.
know.
Like I don't like folding clothes. So if I had to fold clothes, I would listen to us to get me through.
I'm not gonna lie. I will wash the clothes,
Yeah, wash them
right?
all day.
And then I will take them and wear them out of the
The dryer.
it's a terrible confession.
No, it's
I will wear them out of the dryer, but mostly out of the hamper thing that you put them in and you fold them out of the thing.
there's
I've
nothing
worn
wrong with that. Well, Juan, we shall
Thank you,
see.
Sharí, for this
We shall
time.
see.
I
Thank
appreciate it.
you. I want to make sure people can connect with you on social media because you do come out of your cave to do your stories and your live sometimes, which
Yeah.
are quite fascinating and fun. So how can they do that?
JUANWINANS, Juan Winans. And that is IG, that's Twitter, that's Facebook. It's nice to be a black man named Juan
Yeah,
for
it
this
is.
purpose because there aren't a lot. And I don't think there are any other Juan Winans. It's like maybe
They're
on
not.
planet Earth.
There's
And,
no other Winans period on planet Earth. It's just You all's family. That's the only Winans I will ever recognize.
No,
ever.
Well, there's some white ones.
I don't care about them. What I'm saying is, you all are the only Winans that I will recognize. Okay.
Well, thank you. And then there's only one Juan Winans, so it's pretty easy to find me. And I think that speaks to the unique nature of my presence.
Why would you just would have to end it?
I tried to get all the way through it, but I couldn't get through it.
I'm done talking to
It
him.
was so ridiculous.
I'm done.
Sharí, I love you.
I love you too, Juan. Please get off of here. This is insane.
It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Just my opinion. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Get out